Good afternoon, everyone. So happy to have you guys join us in this amazing conversation. My name is Danica Dilligard, and I am an audit partner out of EY, and I am happy to welcome you to this, what I will hope will be an exciting conversation around innovation and life sciences and the future of bio within the Georgia market. I am joined by two amazing CEOs that are going to partake in a great conversation with regards to, what are some of the challenges, some of the opportunities that are facing us within this particular market. And I'm happy to say that this is actually a spinoff from a conversation that we had within our EY facilities just recently, myself and Brent, and now we're going to be joined by Greg as part of an amazing discussion about what we need to do to take life sciences and the Georgia market into a next level. So again, welcome everyone, and happy to have you here. So I'm not going to steal their thunder because they are dynamic, introducers of themselves. They love to tell their stories, and I can see by Brent's smile already that he likes this part of the conversation. So I might have him kick us off with, how about you just introduce yourself, give me a little bit of background around your organization, your experience, and how you got to Atlanta.
Great. Well, thank you for the time, and always a pleasure to join Georgia Bio. So my name is Brent.furse. I'm President and CEO of Bureau Biotech. We are a biotech company that's focused on acute care hospital medicine, specifically cardiopulmonary diseases. We treat patients everywhere from neonatal to COVID to heart transplant patients with our product, Genicil delivery system, which is a tankless nitric oxide delivery system, which is a vasodilator. It's a gas that treats patients in that population. Why did I move the company to Atlanta in 2018? Very simply, I thought Atlanta is a dynamic city full of opportunity, millennials, brilliant people, universities like Georgia Tech, one of the #1 biomedical engineering schools in the country. We have Emory, Georgia State, all the CHOA, all the great facilities around us to work with. And it's been incredibly successful, and very pleased with the decision I made to move the company here.
So Greg?
Yeah, hi, Greg Mays. I'm the president and CEO of Antios Therapeutics, and I probably made the decision to actually keep Antios in Atlanta. I actually became the president and CEO just about a year ago for Antios. I stepped into the shoes of a Georgia Bio icon, Dr. Abel De La Rosa, who helped develop our lead molecule, ATI-2173, for which we hope will become part of the curative regimen for hepatitis B. Dr. De La Rosa actually developed the molecule at the Emory University Institute for Drug Discovery. It was a wonderful place. We spun out the asset in 2018 and did our preclinical work in 2019, and our very compelling proof of concept data from our phase 1 studies came out in 2020, which is when I joined the company. And really, actually, the truth of it is that that COVID was in its midst, and I'm a Jersey guy by chance, but I did not tinker with the success of the Georgia Bio sort of infrastructure. We've actually increased since I came on board our number of Georgia-based employees. I don't really view the company as having a technical headquarters, and I think that we will continue to increase our number of Georgia-based employees. I spend about a week in Georgia a month, with the employees, and it's sort of the new way the world works in a lot of respects. But and then what we also do is we also pick a location. We do have a couple other employees in Boston and in the New York City area. So usually once a month, the whole company, all 14 of us, is getting together. But for now, 40% of the company is in Atlanta. Many of them have been there since its inception in 2018, and as I said, we've added a couple since I took over last fall. So very excited to tap into that market. I think there's a a lot of excitement. And as Brent mentioned, there's certainly the talent base to tap into and continue to build the business there. So pleasure to meet everybody, and look forward to the discussion.
I'm excited, and you said music to my ears. I'm also a Jersey girl, so I actually started my career in the New Jersey office. I am a biotech, med device, pharma girl, everything that you can imagine, but all grew up in New Jersey. So when I moved here 4 years ago, it was one of those things where I was like, oh gosh, there has to be something here that we can tap into, and immediately connected with Maria from the onset. And I was like, you know what, you have the infrastructure, you have, all of the capabilities. So how do we make sure that we can grow this market? Now, granted, I know based on our last conversation, Brent, you recall, we clearly acknowledge that there is some need from an investment standpoint, but there are a lot of different factors that are going into this consideration. And, hopefully, in the future, there will be, this thing that we really feel that can actually blossom in the Atlanta market. So let's talk about the substance of this conversation. So how do we tackle this issue with regards to innovation, growing this particular market within the Atlanta community from a standpoint of, what do companies need to do to be able to foster that innovation, that creativity, how to retain our talent, how do we really grow this industry in Georgia?
So, Greg, you want to go first? You want me to take this?
Why don't you go ahead, Brent?
Well, look, I'm a Georgia boy who ultimately went to New Jersey and Boston to build companies, and then I decided to come back. I decided to come back for the simple reason that I believed we had great talent that moved to this city, like Georgia Tech, Morehouse, you name all the universities, and then we were challenged to keep them. Our company is about 48% millennial, 45% minority, and high 40s female. It's a very diverse company that ultimately, I think I say that because we've been able to tap into the Georgia Tech talent and local university talent, and they've been those millennials been to tap into their own friends to build the company around that. When I moved the company here, we had 15 people. We're now almost 300, and that's since 2018 during the middle of COVID. So we've grown very fast and had no trouble recruiting really strong talent. The one piece we're challenged with is quality and regulatory, but like you, Greg, we're flexible where we leverage that talent. And I think ultimately the way to grow it long-term in the state, and Danica's heard this, so does Georgia Bio, is to really put a light on the companies like yours, like mine, that are experiencing successes, so that they stop looking at areas like San Francisco, Boston, San Diego as the opportune places. And they look to Atlanta as a great place to build it. It's a balance of all of those, and it's affordable. So I think that's the way to really make this happen. Like, you can live anywhere and attract great money if you have the right product, right? I mean, we attract investors here. They fly in all the time. We have more flying in next week. But ultimately, you have to have access to a great young talent pool that you can grow up. And I think even, the state's done a nice job of attracting Microsoft and others to the state, which ultimately brings even more talent in. But the focus on the biotech companies like ours, not just big pharmaceutical manufacturing facilities coming to the state, is really the key to make that happen. Greg?
Great. No, thanks, Brent. Those are excellent points. And I mean, I think you got to start with sort of the building blocks, which Brent sort of recognizes, is that tap into your existing infrastructure, what you already have. So in our case, the Emory University Institute of Drug Discovery, or Drug Discovery Institute, really formed the base. And then, from my perspective, you do have an affordable cost of living in the Atlanta area. And in my case, my employees are very happy and content living there. But they also bring to the table a deep understanding of the biotechnology industry, and in particular, our lead molecule. So there was no chance that I was going to ask them to move to New Jersey just because I lived here. In fact, they made it known to me that they wouldn't move. So, I'm not gonna go through that type of dislocation and expense based upon, and also there's a huge advantage to us being, geographically connected to Emory, and Emory has continued to make great advancements, particularly in the virology area with going back to Abel de la Rosa's days at Emory. So I think the some of the existing infrastructure on the tech side in Atlanta can be tapped into, and then I think again, I mean, my employees, they really enjoy living there, and I'm gonna keep them there, and I'll be the one that's flying to see them and keeping the company growing in the Atlanta area.
Yeah, I love Jersey as well, though, but Atlanta's special.
I have to say, I'm with you. I
There's
love Jersey. 20 years in New Jersey, and I'm like, I miss it a tremendous amount, but I also love Atlanta. I actually love Atlanta food a whole lot more than New Jersey. So,
well, and I also wanted to add, I also forgot to add that we are also a very diverse company. We have, out of our 14 employees, we only have 3 males and 11 females. So I think it's about 80% female. So in any event,
you saw the writing on the wall. You know the secret to success, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so when you think about the major trends impacting the life sciences industry, what are some of the things that our participants listening to this conversation should think about, whether it's, digital, whether it's new, ways of thinking, whether it's, providing data, innovation and technology? What are some of the things that you think should be at the forefront of that consideration?
Greg?
Okay, Brent's going to have me go first. I mean, obviously, I think the most obvious thing is clearly, the pandemic we're living in. I mean, it's got to be in the forefront of everybody's saying, well, it looks like, maybe cases are coming down, or I think we'll eventually get out of this situation. You got to almost wonder as a CEO, when's the next shoe going to drop in some sort of way that provides a dislocation. And I mean, there were, clinical development programs halted, delayed, et cetera, because, you couldn't access hospitals, which, made perfect sense. And, so that's sort of like, as you think about timelines and planning, I think there'll be, going forward, certainly a new emphasis on that. My prior company, I mean, we literally announced our data from our pivotal study on Friday, March 13th. And so we made it just under the wire, because Friday, March 13th, 2020 is kind of a day people said the world kind of shut down, or at least in the United States did. So, that's a big thing. And then obviously there's a lot of chitter chatter in Washington about, drug pricing and access to care. And, I think we got to keep, we need to keep that front and center. I was hopeful. I'm not as hopeful that, I thought the evolution and advance of really good, technologies and therapeutics and vaccines dealing with COVID would sort of let people realize how important the industry is. But maybe as we get further away from vaccines and some of the therapeutics that develop with COVID, we're sort of falling back into this trap of like, price setting. And that's gonna hurt Atlanta. That's gonna hurt New Jersey. That's gonna hurt a lot of smaller companies like myself as they begin to develop. And we all start small in some way, as Brent's company did. So those are two big things that are sort of as I start to look at timelines and the future of the company, things that are sort of jumping out in front of me. But then again, technology, can be levered a lot more smartly in terms of recruiting for trials, digitally and telehealth. And so there's a lot of opportunities out there too that we need to be thinking about how can they actually help us work smarter. But I think I'm probably focused on the potholes that are out there versus the, just want to make sure we're navigating around them. Brent?
Yeah, well, I'll focus on, our purpose is save lives, alleviate suffering, and improve the health economics of care. And I think it all exists around the health economics of care. Health IT, artificial intelligence, avoiding rehospitalization. And I'd live in the acute care hospital space. It's what I love. It's what I've done for 30 years. And our entire platform is built around, and our focus is how do we ultimately, while we're treating patients within the hospital walls, how do we have more intelligent clinical trial design? How do we incorporate health information technology, artificial intelligence around a tankless nitric oxide delivery system that ultimately helps avoid rehospitalization, either working with, say, the CardioMEMS device, which I think is a great technology that another former Georgia Bio president and founder, Jay Yatta, a friend of mine, developed to help avoid rehospitalization with in heart failure. Our device, for example, could help disrupt that pathway of care and avoid rehospitalization. The key in with all of these drugs, I don't think it's around drug pricing. I think it's more about smarter drugs that help avoid hospitalization in the end. Smarter trials around the right patient populations that really make a long-term impact.
Excellent points from both of you. So, when you think about, moving this to the next level, what strategic alliances should companies of your size and scale who are looking to take it to the next level and achieve some of those things that you just mentioned, should we be thinking about informing?
Well, I'll take this one. Obviously Greg and his team have worked exceptionally well with with Emory University. So university partnerships are obviously key. We do a lot of the same kind of work. I think for companies like ours, understanding the patient care pathway, when a patient is first diagnosed, their pathway through the hospital, ultimately to through the ambulatory setting to long-term home health care, that we understand the entire pathway of care. And that really requires that we work with hospitals to understand how we can disrupt and improve that chain through proper solutions. Certainly, industry has always worked at some level through with hospitals, but I think we have to change the way we look at them entirely, not look at them as a point of care or A to Z state, but ultimately a pathway of care instead. That's the way healthcare providers are challenged to look at it, and we have to look at it the same way and really dig in and work with them, beside them, before we approach the FDA. That's the only way to improve the health economics of care, in my view.
No, that's really a good point. That's really a good point, Brent. And I, appreciate that sort of really getting a detailed understanding of the patient walk that they take forward is critical. I mean, this might sound a little self-serving to the group that's sponsoring this, but I mean, I would encourage small businesses to small companies getting started in this area to develop alliances with an organization like Georgia Bio. I can tell you that we started with our one product company out of Emory University, as I mentioned at the outset. But one thing that a lot of investors will look at is they'll say, hey, look, I don't want to have all my eggs in one basket. And, they would like smaller companies to have another shot on goal or another opportunity to be a multi-product company. So through our relationship with, Mother Bio, not Georgia Bio, but, we participated in some programs that actually helped introduce us to, another strategic asset out of Europe that we're in the process of acquiring right now. So that's kind of like, that can be very helpful, relationship as well. And I do read the newsletters and, the opportunities to meet other CROs and other providers and just sort of stay on top of it. It becomes a very effective communication tool. But I wouldn't look past that could be a key strategic alliance, particularly for a company that doesn't have a lot of resources and/or that includes money and time. So it could be an effective way to just sort of connect right to your next opportunity.
You both actually touched upon a topic that is definitely near and dear to many of our participants' heart, and it's really around show me the money, the access to the capital, right? You both have been extremely successful in securing that funding that will take you through the different phases from a clinical trial, R&D, investment. But as we all know, that this industry, you have to have very thick skin and patient, to be able to like live it out from a long run perspective. Like, can you give our participants some advice on how do we access capital in an area like Atlanta, where, it's not known for, the innovation like the Boston, New Jersey, or the West Coast model?
Yeah, for me, I think it's networking, telling the story. Greg and I share a little bit of lineage. Ray Shinazi is actually very close to Ray Shinazi. He's actually an investor in our firm and has really helped us network and raise capital for the firm in many levels. He was at the core of all the research there at Emory as well.
Yep.
I don't think at this point it was made at our last conference, Danica, that you don't have to be in Boston or New Jersey, but you do need to network at all levels. Both fellow CEOs develop those networks, attending conferences develop those networks, but just getting the product, the company, the opportunity name out there is everything. It is the toughest thing we do in this business, is to raise capital by a long shot, no matter how great your asset is. But developing those networks is everything.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, from my perspective, and I don't know how much, Brent, if you analyze how much of your time, but I mean, it's the number one thing I focus on as a CEO is because I've got a great team, which includes, 40% of the company based in the greater Atlanta area. So it's like, I got a great team. They're gonna crank it out, but I need to be able to make payroll and make sure we've got enough money to move these things forward. I some weeks is probably close to 90% of my time is spent really analyzing our cash runway and how do we enhance it and to get us to where we think we need to be. So look, you can't leave any stone unturned. I'm currently raising a Series B1 top-up round on top of raising $96 million earlier this year, and we've reached out to over 110 potential investors, and really we're probably only going to end up with 2, maybe 3 at the end of the day in terms of our additional investor base. So you have to be really prepared to, and they don't have to live in, I mean, I live in suburban New Jersey outside of Manhattan, and yes, there's a lot of money in New York City, but I can tell you that in the last year I've been at Antios, I mean, I can count on 2 hands the number of in-person investor meetings I've had because of the pandemic, and it's actually much more effective. I mean, during JP Morgan last year, I mean, we set up, my chief medical officer and I did 8 consecutive 1-hour Zoom meetings from 12 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 o'clock at night. And Danica, your point is, you have to have thick skin. You do need to, just kind of continue to build out. I think my success has always been start with one, get one really good investor, tap into a guy like Ray Shinazi and their network, and bring that one person with credibility and conviction for your company. That will then add 2. That will then add, then they'll introduce you to their network, and it really builds from there. So starting with, and may sound, you're not gonna be able to fully fund a company with just one investor, but once you get that one credible investor in, then I think you're starting to develop some momentum, and other people will look at you. Unfortunately, a lot of the investors do look to their peers in terms of who's validating the science, the management team, the opportunity, et cetera. So those are just some food for thought, but obviously it's something that I find myself sort of perpetually on the hamster wheel of financing.
All excellent points. And, you're right. I mean, it's one of those things where you have to be invested and you have to form the right relationships and you have to be able to sustain them and also, continue to nurture and develop them.
Mhm.
So I know, unlike the last discussion that we had, Brent, and it just kept going and we just kept answering a million questions. So you're actually off the hook this time because we do have a particular time slot. So I am sensitive to the time that we currently have, but if you have some final parting thoughts that you want to share with our participants, let us know. What do you think that we should, leave our folks with?
Greg?
Sure. My parting thought would be, I'm tied to this opportunity via the greater Atlanta area. You don't necessarily have to be there. There's a lot of things we can accomplish, remotely or via Zoom. It's not a substitute though for, in-person, dialogue and connection. And that's what I do. But I think there's a way to be successful, and either not being there doesn't mean Atlanta can't be great. You can continue to just do what Brent's doing and make Atlanta your home, and tap into the existing scientific and technological infrastructure and build employee base around it. I think it's a great place that people want to live, and there's plenty of opportunities for biotechnology work.
Yeah, I agree with that, Greg. I think the last message I would leave, and Danica's heard this from me, the three things that we need to continue to focus on, and having these forums is absolutely doing that, particularly with Danica's enthusiasm. You're always the best facilitator. Is continue to attract and work hard to attract great quality leaders, quality professionals, because that's a tough thing to do here in Atlanta initially, but it's getting better. And with our success, your success, we attract those and keep those people here and letting them know there's a future. The same thing for regulatory people. They're all over the place in New Jersey. And that's one of the things I love about New Jersey. Regulatory professionals are everywhere. The weather's better down here. The cost of living is better down here, everything. We just have to provide an environment that is going to allow them to grow throughout the industry, right? And third, networking among CEOs, great partners like EMY, Georgia Bio, to develop and talk about the great successes we have here. Because money will find you, but you need to talk about that. At conferences, you need to talk about it, share ideas, bring investors in. When those investors are in Atlanta, really network at all levels, both in Atlanta and outside of it, to bring it in. It is absolutely key, because they begin to find one in Atlanta, they make a lot of money, are really successful. Then they find 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they begin establishing an office down here, just like Sun Valley or Silicon Valley Bank has done. That is great for our industry. That's what we need to see. That will change everything.
I couldn't have said it better. Both, Brent and Greg, thank you so much on behalf of Georgia Bio, EY, for this partnership, our continued, relationship to build this awareness around growing and innovation and life sciences within this Georgia market. I look forward to our continued dialogue around this particular topic. And, thank you so much. I wish we were physically in person. I know normally I pop downstairs on the 5th floor and, and chat with you directly, Brent, but, hopefully, we can meet in person at some point, Greg, when you're back in Atlanta, or when I come up to New Jersey, because I come up quite often because all of my friends are still up there. So, both are very bond to me. So thank you very much for this opportunity to have this dialogue with you.
No, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. And I wish everybody the best. And Brent, look forward to seeing you soon too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Danica, Georgia Bio. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Georgia Bio's Innovation Summit. I have the pleasure to welcome you and also introduce you to two unbelievable speakers this afternoon. We're going to be continuing on a topic that we have been discussing over the last several years, but even more attention given over the last several months. I had the opportunity to partner with Georgia Bio as part of their strategic session to talk about the future of life sciences and innovation within the Georgia marketplace. And I can tell you it was a very spirited discussion that we had in our live EY Wave space in our Atlanta office that continued with a discussion that I had with two other CEOs. And now we are actually closing the loop as part of this discussion. I am joined by Patty Fritz from UCB and Rick Eiswirth from Alamera Sciences. And again, my name is Danica Dilligard, and I am an audit partner based out of the EY Atlanta office. I am going to turn it over to my two panelists here who will introduce themselves, give you a background about their organizations, their roles within the organizations. And once they've done that, we will kick this off and get into what I hope to be a very spirited discussion around the future and innovation of life sciences here in Georgia. So I am going to turn it over to you. Patty, would you like to start us off?
Certainly. I am delighted to be here with all of you today. First of all, my name is Patty Fritz, as Danica said. I am the head of U.S. Corporate Affairs for UCB. And in my role at UCB, I lead a fantastic team responsible for public policy, government relations, advocacy, communications, and public affairs, as well as UCB's office and strategic federal priorities in Washington, D.C. My experience at UCB began many years ago when the company moved to Atlanta in 1994 to establish its U.S. headquarters. And our Atlanta campus continues to be our U.S. headquarters for UCB. I'm incredibly proud of how much the organization has grown within this time frame, and also proud of our heritage having launched multiple life-changing innovations for patients over the course of this time. I started my career at UCB in R&D, and I moved to the business part of the organization some years later. I've seen the organization transform itself, and I think that's the wonderful part about being within the life sciences. You get an opportunity to see transformative therapeutics come about, but you also get a chance to see organizations transform themselves, which is what we did. I was part of the evolution from a primary care business to a specialty biopharmaceutical business, really dedicated to transforming the lives of people living with severe disease. I'm really proud of UCB's unwavering commitment as a company to solve some of the most challenging health problems locally and globally, and really our commitment to being laser focused on delivering innovative solutions for patients. And now a bit about UCB. For more than 90 years, UCB has been an innovator. So we've stood the test of time, and today is a global biopharmaceutical company, and as I said, laser focused on creating value for patients living with severe disease. We put patients at the center of our world and leverage our expertise in neurology and immunology to find solutions to improve patients' lives now and in the future. And UCB is really expanding its neurology therapeutic focus to include therapeutics and solutions for those living with rare disease. And on the horizon, we're really preparing ourselves to be in the gene and cell-based therapy space. Our global headquarters is in Brussels, and we have 7 offices in the US, and I mentioned that the Smyrna, Georgia is our US headquarters. We have 47 acres here in Cobb County, and we employ about 500 colleagues here. We also have campuses in Massachusetts, North Carolina, Washington State, really in Bainbridge Island, just outside of Seattle, and also Washington, D.C. And proudly, we have served 3.5 million patients around the world. And a bit of good news, our Atlanta footprint is growing. we recently committed to a more than $45 million investment on our Atlanta campus. This is a 60,000 square foot new workspace that's going to be both WELL and LEED certified. And this is really a first for the state of Georgia. This WELL and LEED certification really links back to the green status of that building, the sustainability metrics. And so we're really, really proud of that. And I was able to go on a tour of the building. It's not quite finished last week. And I was completely, it was jaw-dropping. It's just so amazing. And I think it's going to be a wonderful activity-based workspace to help us come back from hybrid working, or go into hybrid working, I should say. And just in closing, I'm really proud to be part of the greater Atlanta community, and so is UCB. And I would say for UCB, we're really proud of our investment and being part of the growth engine right here in the Georgia healthcare ecosystem. And now I'll turn it back over to Rick and Danica. So thank you for giving me that time.
No, that was wonderful. I love all of the history, the background, your role within the organization, the footprint, and the presence in Atlanta. So I'm going to turn it over to Rick, who's also going to amaze us that way.
Great, thanks, Danica. Thanks, Patty. So I'm Rick Eiswirth. The company's Alimera Sciences. I've actually been with Alimera, gosh, almost 16 years now. It'll be 16 years at the end of this month. For the last almost 3 years, I've been president and CEO here. I'm very proud of what we're accomplishing here, as we should be of all these companies are doing in the Atlanta area. Alimera is focused on ophthalmology and specifically treating retina disease or diseases of the back of the eye. And our goal that we talk about a lot is to help patients see better longer. In fact, it's actually to see better longer with fewer injections. We've got a product called Illuvian that we're very proud of, that we think is changing the paradigm in the way retina disease gets treated. Most retina disease, for those of you that don't know, gets treated once a month or once every 2 months with a needle in the eye or an injection in the eye. So patients are having to repeatedly go back into their doctor's office and be injected with needles in the eye. Our drug is pretty unique in that it too is an injection in the eye, but it lasts for up to 3 years. And so the idea is to keep the disease from coming and going and waxing and waning and having a lot of damage happen in the eye when the disease recurs. So we're trying to change that paradigm. We actually have started a recent clinical study against the $7.5 billion standard of care, right, to try to demonstrate where the value is in the space. So we're very excited about that. We do think we can give a lot of patient benefit there. As you can imagine, it's not something patients like to do, to go back in the office to get a needle in the eye. We're also very proud of a pretty big footprint we have. We're continuing to try to expand geographically. The company was founded here in the Atlanta area back in 2003 by 3 or 4 people that came out of Novartis Ophthalmics. Today, we've got 30 to 40 people still based in the Atlanta office, but we've got about 150 people spread around the world. And we have continued to expand our geographic presence even during the COVID pandemic situation. Going into the pandemic, our product was commercially available in 11 or 12 countries. It's now available in 17 or 18 countries around the globe, and we expect that to continue to go as well. We've been adding employees as we continue to expand that base. And importantly, we're out there looking for another product as well. We'd like to be the first company that has multiple products serving that retina specialist and their patients, building a unique company around their retina specialists. So we think there's a big opportunity for us to do that. And I guess, similar to Patty's comments, we actually are digging in and entrenching further in the Atlanta area. We're in the process of building out some new space up at the Halcyon development up at McFarland and 400. And we expect to move in that facility, hopefully right at the end of this year. And as I tell my team, we're here to stay and to grow. We're putting together a 10 or 11 year lease up there in that space. So very excited to be here and talk to you all today. And that's a little bit of background on us.
What I love is the 2 different perspectives from 2 different stages from an organizational standpoint that is going to bring such different viewpoints to this discussion. So, I'm going to dive right into it. When you think about some of the major trends that are impacting the life sciences industry over the next year, post-COVID, what would be considered major disruptors that we should be thinking about? And major challenges or opportunities that we can actually tackle today? I'd like to get your viewpoints on that. Either one can start.
Gosh, there's a lot to unpack there. I think, quite a few trends coming out of the pandemic. One, I think continuing to assess what our access is going to be to physicians in the various clinical settings, right, as they continue to work through the social distancing. And that certainly has changed our ability to get out there and engage with physicians directly in the way we would like to. And I think that's continuing to evolve. Frankly, I do think it's going to have to continue to move back to more and more face-to-face. I think you still have to rely on those quality face-to-face engagements, to work with the doctors more closely to both talk about the benefits of our drug and what their patients need. In a bigger setting, I think we're going to continue to see evolution out there in the way drugs are priced and reimbursed. And that's one of the biggest things that, we watch pretty closely. Being in the US and in Europe, we see a lot of these cost effectiveness models impacting the way drugs are priced in the European markets, and discussion about whether or not that will come to the US or how quickly it's going to come to the US and how that's going to be applied is something very interesting that we follow. And frankly, I think depending on how that plays out, it will impact future investment from VCs and the public capital markets in some drug development, right? Because a lot of people start off with their development in the US and the investments are made there because of access to good pricing in the US markets. And people are willing to enter the European markets and other markets external to the US because they can affordably do so based on recovering their investment in the US. But if the economics get more challenging in the US, I think that definitely will have an impact on some of the innovation and money coming into the space.
Thanks, Rick and Danica. And just to build on that, I think that, Rick, you've hit on something. I think this evolving policy environment, really focusing on pricing and not really always taking into account the value that comes with that innovation. And also the other part of that is that the system in the US is so very different. And you really have to take a step back and look at the system and what's contributing to that, the pricing narrative. And, there are a lot of moving parts there around the supply chain and other areas that are contributing to that. And also you've got benefit design that is also contributing to what patients, the end user, are really experiencing when they go to the pharmacy counter. And so I think stepping back and taking a more holistic view of that, how we better connect price to value, but also how we create the right incentives in the system and take into account all of the value that is distributed amongst the value chain, thinking about, PBMs and payers and specialty pharmacy and all of those other, there's a lot of touch points from the time a innovation leaves a manufacturer to it actually reaches the patient. The other, when I think about what we're facing kind of in the near term in terms of trends, this proliferation of digital, I think clearly that's here to stay. Digital and sort of the data from these digital technologies are really revolutionizing every aspect of our business. Life science companies like UCB, and I'm sure Alimera as well, we're using digital analytics, automation, artificial intelligence, all of these things to accelerate or improve the accuracy and predictability of discovery, development, and also the delivery of treatments. Digital is now applied throughout the entire value chain, enabling connectivity to patients. And also, we're using digital to deeply understand the unique patient experience and to create more personalized solutions, which I think is a very positive turn of events, thinking about value for the patient. For UCB, with this proliferation of digital, we're really undergoing this digital business transformation. It is one of our top strategic priorities for the company. And the end goal is to deliver enhanced performance and explore new ways of doing business. This in the pandemic, I think in the past it was a lot of testing, but now it's really been forced upon the life sciences, and we're really capitalizing. I can share an experience we had where we did a moonshot project where we were able to actually screen libraries for potential COVID therapeutics in just a matter of days, when it would have taken us many months, if not 6 months, to do the very same thing. The other is this redesigning of work. And Rick, you touched on this sort of hybrid model that we're managing. In fact, our laboratories and our factories never stopped, but our office workers haven't come back to the office yet. We're still running pilots for hybrid, but we haven't actually come back to the office yet, although we're anticipating coming back in a hybrid fashion soon. But I agree with you, Rick. We have to, we recognize the value of human capital, the value of human interaction, and we're in the business of innovation. And that, innovation, being able to ideate and work together, it really, we understand there's a need for people to be back together. If you think back to last March, almost overnight, the ways we work and the way we live changed. And frankly, we're in a continuous state of reimagination, really trying to be as flexible as possible and bring the lessons learned from what we've lived through for the future ways of working. I do think there's a way, it's time for us to reassess the way we work. We saw exponential growth in connectivity through digital tools, faster networks, cloud computing, new ways to collaborate that reduce time, distance, cost. I mean, people were doing deals remotely, which you can't imagine doing a big deal remotely, but it happened. I think the other trend that I really feel like I have to bring up, because it's sort of my passion, which is sustainability, and specifically the work that we need to do on social determinants of health as a way to improve health equity. I think it became very clear that business had a role to play. And really at UCB, we know the challenges facing the world are linked, and that we have a role to play to ensure a sustainable future. I also think that part of that is an opportunity to address health equity. We know today that economic, social, and environmental factors influence outcomes. And in fact, if you read the published literature, it's anywhere from 40% to 80% of the outcome is impacted by those variables. And so, I think it's giving us pause to come together to collectively and strategically focus on how we can contribute to our human and societal values in that way. At UCB, we've really fully integrated sustainability, not in terms of a what, but a how, and really focusing on scientific innovation, access to medicine, employee health and well-being, and also the environment or the health of the planet. And we want to create value for patients, for people, for society, for health systems. I mean, we try to think about it in this more holistic way. But underpinning all that is our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We think that's part of everything we do. It has to be top of mind. And also business ethics, in terms of our commitment to ethical principles of transparency, respect, integrity.
Wow.
I know I've been long, but
but
like if I don't talk about sustainability, which is my passion, I would be remiss.
Well, you were definitely missed at our wave space session. You would have been amazed. We had an entire mural on ESG and interactive session, but that's okay. We can talk about that in the future. But you both have literally raised some amazing points. There was so much to kind of digest in there. Normally, I kind of try to recap and link it back. But, in the interest of time, I do definitely want to talk about a topic that's also very near and dear to our hearts, very specific to Georgia life sciences and this particular market. We got into a very spirited debate regarding attracting, retaining talent, and making sure we have the appropriate resources. We had the ability to have, several universities represented as part of this discussion, and we clearly have the infrastructure here in Georgia to be able to grow this industry, but we continue to be faced with challenges on, folks wanting to relocate to other markets that probably have much more longer track records within this particular industry, whether it's the Northeast or out West. So what do we do to really address this particular topic? Because I know it's something that we continue to be challenged with, but I would love your perspectives on this topic.
Well, I mean, I think we're going to continue to be challenged with that, for the foreseeable future, as Atlanta and Georgia continues to try to grow. But I think there's a great opportunity for us, now to look further in the way we hire, right? Because of, frankly, the viability of remote work, or people being located, remotely, that COVID's presented to us. Our search criteria and the region that we search in, it's not just limited to the U.S., it's global, now, because we globally try to find the best person that we can for positions. So I would say the vast majority of our hires in the last, 12 months or so have not been located in the Atlanta area, because we have access to that talent. Now, that doesn't necessarily grow the presence in Atlanta, from a tax base, et cetera, here. But what it does is it allows us to bring more talent in the organization, to grow the organization, which then would lead to more jobs and everything in the area, and bring people in here. I think that access and that way we go about doing that, it's great that it helps us access talent. But I think there are a lot of other issues that we're going to have to deal with down the road when we think about this remote working situation, the flexibility of the hybrid that Patty was worried about, was mentioning earlier as well. In that, I think it's great you can access the people, but then I think you have a gap on your people development and retention and training and mentoring, right? Because I think that's a lot harder to accomplish in a virtual environment, than it is in person, right? You don't get the water cooler conversation, right? Where the ad hoc conversations come up 3 or 4 or 5 times a day that yield to somebody's development, right? Or somebody doesn't get pulled into a random project when they're in the office and they're walking down the hall. All of those things that lead to that development and that retention long-term, and building them as part of the culture of the company. So I think it's great that we've got more access to a broader range of employees, and we can bring more talent in because of what the remote environment creates for us. But I do think it's going to provide some challenges down the road.
Yeah, Rick, I absolutely agree with you. And, in the life sciences right now, we really are in this sort of talent war. And one of the things contributing to this is that people don't have to move. We're seeing more and more people being recruited for roles where you don't have to move, or it's remote working. And it makes the importance, as you mentioned, of company culture even more important. Creating this sense of belonging, this connectivity to people has to really be top of mind. And then also, I think it's really important to create a strong sense of purpose. Caring for employees, and sort of this purpose having a positive impact on communities, giving them some anchors as well. And part of our sustainability approach includes this focus on employee health, safety, and well-being, and really trying to create a culture of inclusion, providing development opportunities, equitable opportunities for all employees, embracing talent development, embracing diversity, and really just fostering an environment where people feel included and feel like they have a meaningful role and are able to contribute very broadly. One of the other things is here in Georgia, we have great institutions, but we also need to think about the future workforce. And one of the things we've tried to do is support STEM education. And we do that in all of the locations, all of the markets where we have campuses, particularly in Georgia. I know we support the BioEd Institute. We think it's really important they're creating that, nurturing a love for science early on so that we can sort of create and build future scientists for our workforce.
Both excellent points. And, just taking it a little bit further, do you see any opportunities for key collaborations across the industry to kind of meet these objectives of things that we are currently challenged with?
Yeah, that's a good point, Danica. I think that across the life sciences, and I think about Georgia Bio and some of the other organizations, I do think that we could work more closely with the local institutions and other like-minded stakeholders to come up with programs to help create and nurture this life science community. One of the areas, we don't have that many late-stage companies in the Atlanta area. And Rick, I don't know if you have a perspective on this, but sort of that business, some of those the career path for those. I mean, that's a particular gap that I've noticed over the years, and it'd be great to work and create some incentives to attract, potential employees from across the country to this market. And I really think that the state of Georgia could help us in that realm as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's a tougher question for me to answer in a small company, because we're not really refilling the ranks, every year with new employees, to bring through, from a talent development standpoint yet. I hope we get there, because I hope we add a couple of products, and then it, makes every department need to be bigger and have more of a chain there. But I think, like I said, I do think that over time, this access to more of a pool will allow us to bring more people to Atlanta, and maybe we can build from that.
Great points, both of you. And I know that we're getting close to our time, so I do want to take this opportunity to kind of give you an ability to kind of give our participants some parting thoughts around, what you want them to resonate with regards to innovation, anything that you want to leave them with related to the life sciences industry that we didn't really cover.
Thanks, Danica. My parting thought is I'm incredibly proud to have been part of this life sciences ecosystem in Georgia. All of us have a role to play, and I hope that others share the sense of pride that I have, and I know that UCB has, to be part of this really growing and flourishing ecosystem. And I just say, stay resilient, come back strong. COVID's not going to be here forever.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I would say, for those of you out there that are innovating and working on new products, stay the course, be persistent, never give up. Alimera is sort of the poster child for that story. This company was founded back in 2003, as I said. It took us 11 years to get through development and get through the FDA, through multiple CRLs. We now have a product that's approved in the US and in 20 plus countries around the globe. We're commercial in, as I said, about 18 countries now. We've got 150 employees. We've got offices in 5 different countries. And it all started with a couple of, people, as I said, coming out of Novartis Ophthalmics, 18 years ago at this point, that, frankly, never gave up. So we're really proud of that. And I think it's just a great example of persistence and, stay the course, stay with your plan.
I love those stories. I'm going to be really honest. Rick and I had an opportunity to kind of talk a couple of months ago, but I've been blessed to have the opportunity to serve various different stages of clients, but I have a sweet spot for the entrepreneurial, investment that goes into developing and, literally to your point, staying persistent, staying the course, staying motivated to kind of continue, because you guys are doing amazing work. Both organizations are. And I think you actually benefit from each other because, when you get to the size and scale of a UCB, you can always learn from individual companies like, Alamera and many others within this ecosystem that are part of this growth and development of technology and innovation. So on behalf of Georgia Bio and EY, I want to personally thank you both for an amazing conversation. I think your perspectives were extremely insightful, and I look forward to many, many more conversations in the future.
Thank you very much.
Danica. Great to see you again, Rick.
Thank you.